Hi, I'm Dan Schmitt. I do a weekly television show called Team Chicago Challenge. It's a motorcycle racing TV show. Over the last span, we have produced 20 shows using my photo albums and using old film and old video, and I've been lucky I've been doing the TV show for 33 years and covering motorcycle racing. This is show number 21 of the series, and we're going to sort of wrap up with my granddaughter Alyssa. We're going to sort of wrap up the season, and then we're going to include my daughter Heather also to wrap up what we have gone through over the last 20 shows. So it's pretty interesting, but before we get there, we're going to talk about racing, the ice races in 2020, and maybe one of my best dirt track races ever from Champaign, Urbana at the fairgrounds. And don't forget, my website is teamchicago.tv. It will be upgraded pretty soon, sometime in the next year. And my email, I love to hear from my audience, and it's teamdan45@gmail.com. We're looking at two pictures right now, though I'm going to show them, from the only two races I ran this year. One I rode Phil Young's Kawasaki, and that was at the Steel Shoe race. And then here I rode Joe Stoppelwerth's Yamaha, and that was at the Amateur National Ice Race in Winneweega, Wisconsin. But in 2018, because I said I've come back to dirt track racing, I've ran a couple road races recently, but not in the last couple years. I've done a couple track days, but I want to show you, which I'm very proud of, this one race, and I don't want to finish this up without showing it. Champaign, they run at the fairgrounds. Champaign County Fair, Champaign, Illinois, Champaign, Urbana. And I had one of the best races in my life on the half mile. So let me show you this footage from Champaign. I think you'll like it. It's a pretty good. When I talk about every once in a while, I am on the top of my game, and I feel really good, and I really like I know what I'm doing. So let's show this footage from Champaign.
Wait for the start. The light flashes. Jumping out front on that twin Suzuki, it is Sam Evans, the two-stroke twin 500cc, I believe. I'm riding a 750cc Triumph. Coming by now, that is Darwin Henshaw. He's on a 500cc Honda single. As you can see, I'm riding up high. I've dived down, get on the gas, powered by the Suzuki, stay on the gas a little bit longer, take the eye line, go up by the hay bales. Now I'm going to square the corner off and dive down below, get a nice drive, get back on the gas. It's a little tough racing into the sun. I go up high, up by the hay bales, now square the corner off. Get on the gas as soon as possible. Get by this Honda. Riding up by the hay bales, now I square the corner off, come down. Get on the gas a little quicker than Darren. And this is what cushion racing is. Running up to the hay bales, going in, squaring the bike off. Trying to get on the gas a little bit sooner. I'm a little late getting on the gas. I'm coasting a little too much. I should be on the gas a little sooner. But this is my first flat track race in a year. Last bike I rode was a 250 Bultaco. As you can see, the track is a little rough. You have to ride the bike. Down on the inside, get on the gas, square the corner up. Down the front straightaway one more time. Feels pretty good being out front. Don't have to worry about anybody spraying my face shield or my camera. Being a little too cautious, I think. I got to get on the gas. I can hear that Honda behind me. White flag, 1 lap to go. Run up by the hay bales, square the corner. Drop down, get on the gas. A little too cautious, running in the middle of the track. In the meantime, Darwin Henshaw finds a way by on the upper line, goes on to pick up the win. I end up in second place. It was a pretty nice track and a pretty good ride. I had a great time running this heat race. I can't wait to run in the final.
Gramps, why didn't you win that race?
Well, I led 4 laps, I think. Did I get tired? Did the guy behind me say, that guy's 70, almost 70 years old, I better beat him? Because you got to understand, I'm running the vintage class. So the vintage class means that you got to run a bike older than 1985. That's what vintage means nowadays, I think, or maybe it's older than 90 or whatever, I don't know. And my Triumph is, you know, it's a 67 engine and a Trackmaster frame, was probably put together in 68 when they changed the rules. I bought that bike from George Wills. But I've got it pretty well set up suspension wise, and the engine was running great. The cushion track was great. I felt great. And maybe the guy got me out of the last just because he was a little more determined. And I'm the oldest guy in the race. He could have been 30, but he's running an older bike. I'm just happy leading a 4 or 5 laps. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I felt like, man, this is happening.
Yeah.
But here, now here looking at the steel shoe, I'm going to show you a little bit of my helmet cam footage at the steel shoe. The problem I had there was Phil put the tires together, but he really did not put the front tire together properly, and that bike was a handful of the ride. But I had to get the helmet cam, and I had to do a TV show. At the Amateur National, Joe Stoppelwerth's bike is perfect, but you got to ride a bike a few times if you're going to really be competitive.
Right.
I just ran practice, a heat, and the Consi.
I'm riding Joe Stoppelwerth's beautiful 250 two-stroke, great bike, but this is the first time I've rode it. Jumping off the line, jumping out front, that looks like Ronnie Zarich from Hartland, Wisconsin. Second place is like Dan Deerwick. I'm trying to find my way around this track, getting on the gas. But it is tough. If you don't ride the bike all the time, it's pretty tough to get around the track quickly. But I'm having a great time, and thanks to my dear friend Joe Stoppy for letting me ride this bike. Picking up the win in this heat race was Ronnie Zastro. For more information on the AMA, American Motorcyclists Association, their website is AmericanMotorcyclist.com. As I head on out, I should point out, as we're racing, they are continuously plowing. So as more snow is created in the corners, they are plowing around the track, so you can still find some ice on the inside, and that's about the only place that this bike is going to work. In the 5 different classes, Ironman leading, it is Lance Wolin. In the elite class, it is Parker Lane leading that class. Heavyweight, is Arata Racing, leading the heavyweight class, middleweight class, always selling bike number 145. And leading the lightweight class is bike number 36, that's Lemon Pie Production at this point, 1 hour into the race. We spot the leader, that is Lance Wolin, Sunset Bar and Grill.
So, do you think there's going to be any ice racing this year?
Well, I think so. I honestly believe, in fact, as we speak today, your grandmother, Kathy, got the Chinese plague. She only lost her sense of smell and taste, and in 10 days she was fine. She took tested again, she don't have it. I think the plague, the strength of the plague is decreasing. Now the president got it, and they went to work right away, and he feels okay. So I honestly believe, and I firmly believe there is going to be vaccines. Now I'm a person that believes in vaccines. I get my flu shots, I got my shingle shots. I mean, I can go back to the first time I had a polio shot. I remember that. And I remember Seymour Simon, who was the alderman at that time, being there, greeting everybody as we got polio shot. Now, polio, I mean, Mike Baca's sister had polio. Franklin Delano Roosevelt had polio. So things come, and they're still in the world, there's still people getting polio. So,
Yeah.
so I have a positive attitude about the future.
Yeah.
So, now it's your turn. I'm giving you the floor. You got 5 minutes to wrap up. What do you think? Now, you probably have done 8 of these shows. You've been exposed to the other stuff. So what do you think has captured your what do you think has captured your interest on my history? 50 years.
Yeah, well, I think it's amazing that, you know, we did all these shows and it covers basically the whole span of 50 years, which is like crazy. And it's awesome that you have all these books and all the documentation for everything. I really enjoyed, doing this with you, and also sharing it with Heather, and, you know, watching her shows and being there while she's doing it as well. Yeah.
Your 2 brothers,
Yeah.
they went down to Champaign, and I did that. I mean, I know you watched the show. Did you know any of that about your dad?
Not really. I mean, some of it, but yeah, most of it was new. And
Right.
that was also awesome, like learning all this new stuff about my dad that he's
Right,
never
right.
really talked about with
Believe me, he was maybe one of the most amazing 8-year-olds in the country.
Yeah.
Anything else about this series?
I think it's pretty cool, like learning about how you said, I think you said in the last episode, like how much actually goes into motorcycles, like just the whole industry, you know, like TV shows and radio and all these different types of events, and I mean, you running for Congress and how that kind of ties into it too. So it's pretty interesting to think about all the different things that actually go into it.
I've been blessed. I can't tell you enough how blessed I am.
No, well, thanks for letting me be part of it. Pretty cool.
I have the 3 greatest granddaughters in the world.
And we have the greatest grandpa in the world.
So I just left Alyssa's house, and now we're over here, and I'm with my granddaughter, Taylor. And Taylor, who did the first show, and when we did the first show, the leaves were just coming on the trees, and now we're at the last show, show number 21, and the leaves are starting to fall off the tree. Right. So because of the Chinese plague, and there hasn't been many races, I gave me a great opportunity to sit down with you guys. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Alyssa. And of all the shows that we did and the shows that you've seen, what do you think are your favorite subjects?
So I like the street racing, because that's the most races that I've been to. over there in Summit Point.
So you mean road racing, where
Road
we're
racing,
racing
yes.
street bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So those are the most interesting to me because you go the fastest, the most can go wrong.
Right, right. So my advice to you is, if you want to get into racing, is you could buy a dirt bike for like $1,000 if you go shop around, and if you're willing to get your hands dirty, if you're willing, because you can buy the workshop manual with just a good number of simple tools, you can basically learn, and that's half the fun of having a motorcycle, is the maintenance.
Right.
I mean, I laughed at when I was doing the radio show with Gina. The joke would be, what do you need to own a Harley? And everybody would say you need a credit card and a cell phone.
Right.
So if you're on the road, you know, because people buy motorcycles and they really have no knowledge on, and I believe you shouldn't even own a motorcycle if you can't take it apart 90%
Put it back together,
and put it back together. And that's part of the whole reality of racing. So like I tell you, I mean, Brandon went out, he found a nice 125 dirt bike for $700, and Brandon and I have done a few motocrosses.
Right.
But what I would suggest to you is to find a nice dirt bike. You know, you're 10, 15 years old, the technology, the bikes, the motorcycles now that they have been building for the last 20 years are so unbelievably great. And you could find a dirt bike that someone might have rode 20 hours.
Right.
And it's almost like brand new. So that's my advice to you, and that's my advice to the rest of the audience out there. All right, so what do you think? You think somewhere along the line you should find a dirt bike, or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think it's gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you did ride quite a bit with that little 80 we had, and the 60. You had that Yamaha 60, and I had the Yamaha 80. So I remember one time at Gussie, you must have rode it for 3 hours.
Right, yeah.
But in exchange, on the next day when we had the race, then this is great. I mean, I have to compliment you. When I was doing the off-road stuff, and got the big camera and I'm shooting long shots of bikes, I would take Taylor and put her in the woods. And I would say, when you hear a bike coming, just put the camera on them. You don't have to worry about focus or nothing, and just follow them through. And if you picked up 20 or 30 bikes coming by and all the leaders, I'd put you in a position where the leaders would come by.
Right.
So I'm shooting over here and I'm catching that footage. The one thing where I was catching the people going over that big log. Remember that big log?
I remember that.
And you were down the road on the same trail. So we knew the leaders had to make 2 loops. So I'm over here capturing the slow guys that are finally making the first loop, and you'd be in the woods. And when the leaders came by, and I had that footage too, so it all worked together. I mean, there's many shows that having 2 of us together really, you know, worked out.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is the last show. Any particular episode that you can think of?
So I know a lot about, you know, a lot of the endurance races, but what was it like racing at night at the Willow Springs races?
Well, I was lucky that I got to run Willow Springs twice.
Okay.
In '99, it was a very important race because that captured our first championship. In 2000, I came back and I raced with Phil Caldwell and his team, because Team Chicago was out of the points, and it was the second to last race. So Steve Carson came out and he ran for Team Paramount, and I ran with Moto Heaven. And both races I captured, and I think this is the most spectacular footage. I mean, I got all this cool footage at night. I mean, just because Willow Springs has got some elevation, we call it Budweiser Corner. And they come off of that and they come down into the valley. And the headlights, you know, it's almost, if you close your eye, you almost think you're looking at UFOs coming along.
Okay.
And I had a chance to capture that. But then when I was riding, I made sure I got on the bike at 4 a.m. So as you're coming off Budweiser balcony, you're heading straight east. And every lap, the sun finally started coming up. And we're basically looking over Edwards Air Force Base. I mean, even though it's 10 miles further east, but it's a clear plain. and little by little the sunlight would, and then all of a sudden you could start seeing the racetrack.
Right.
So that is some of the most spectacular stuff that I have.
Oh, I bet.
And then we raced also, into the night at Gateway, and we did pretty good there. And then we raced the race at Nelson Ledges, where we started the race at 5 o'clock and we raced till 11 o'clock into the night.
Wow.
And that was pretty, and we had the practice. So footage, I don't know how to say this, but I have been so blessed that I've been able to capture all this racing. I mean, whether it's dirt track, off-road, ice racing, motocross, supercross, Lake County stuff. And then having you guys, I mean, that you're interested in listening to my stories.
Right.
I mean, some people like to, well, how many more races can you, well, it's been 50 years. I've been lucky to do this.
Oh, absolutely.
And the thing that I am concerned about, but I'm pretty sure it's no big deal, is my audience interested. And I honestly believe my audience is interested. I think the people at home that are watching this, I think they're going to get a kick out of these. And because we had no racing this year, this gave me a perfect opportunity to explain 50 years.
That's quite a long time. 50
years of racing, and all the, starting out with dirt track, because when I started in 1970, dirt track was top of the heap. I mean, that was where everybody wanted to be. That's where all the top riders were. And then that movie, when the movie On Any Sunday, now you've seen clips of that, right? On Any Sunday. That was such a great movie. I mean, I still remember sitting in the theater, watching that movie and saying, God, I wonder if I'm ever going to be as good as these guys.
Right,
and now, 50 years later, I'm friends with a good number of those guys.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And I've been blessed. So, being around Team Chicago, what has it meant to you? I mean, has it been a hassle? Has it been insane? I mean,
oh, it's always been a good time.
Right.
Learn a lot of new things, meet a lot of new people.
Right.
It's never a dull moment.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right. No, like I said, at the different races, you'd have your own friends. You didn't have to hang out with me, and you were very personable, so you could make friends. So it was. Because like I said, you'd be eating dinner over here and sleeping in this family's motorhome, and I'm sleeping in my pickup truck.
Right.
But actually and this one thing I learned, there was a time I would go to the racetrack and then find a motel to stay at, but I always found it was much better to camp at the track.
Oh, I think so too.
Because not only you keep an eye on your stuff, but you're right there in the morning. And then hanging out at the track, you got to hang out with all these different friends of yours.
They had some wild nights over there.
Well, you remember Summit Point, the parties?
Oh, yeah.
When they were doing the wheelie contest and the burnout contest. And I think the one time Danny came with, your cousin Danny, and he almost got hit by that.
Yeah, by a four-wheeler.
The four-wheeler?
2 wheels.
Oh, God. And he was only like 7 years old.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, so it was great. We've been lucky. We have been.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So anything you want to say to the audience that they should know about their grandpa?
Dan Schmitt's the best grandpa, best guy ever. I don't know, you always got a smile on your face. You're always happy. Barely have any gray hair, so you're not stressed.
Right.
Maybe motorcycle racing's the way to go.
I firmly believe, and here's one thing I used to say to everybody. This is my advice to everybody. If you can't be somebody, you can be nobody. So if you don't have, if you got a great job and you work a great job, that's what made America great. Is that people could identify with their jobs, they would be better at their jobs, they would get raises, they would get promoted. There's one quote I put in my calendar, and it said, if you work 8 hours a day as hard as you can, eventually you'll get to be the boss, and then you can work 12 hours a day.
All right.
So that's what reality is. I am living the American dream. I have 8 grandkids, and now I have 3 great-grandkids, and thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry Heather couldn't make this final episode, but Heather did probably the most shows.
That's awesome.
Alyssa stepped up and she did a bunch of shows, and we went out by her place in Woodstock. So, and to my audience, this is my message to the audience. Thanks for watching Team Chicago Challenge. It's been on for 34 years. And thanks for going to the races. Thanks for being a fan of racing. I mean, the different fans I run into all the time, I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
And this has been a great 21 episodes of Team Chicago.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Taylor. And let's not forget to thank Heather also. To contact me, it's teamdan45@gmail.com, and I highly recommend a trip to the World of Motorcycle Museum. It's just off Indiana 39, 4 miles south, North Judson, Indiana, and give them a call at 574-896-3172, and maybe you'll see me there too.